right, we'll resume the Planning Commission. Time is 8:30. This is a continued public hearing, PC 06-13, a resolution of the Mayor and City Council of the City of North Miami, Florida, authorizing the issuance of a conditional use permit for the conceptual master development plan for Tract A of Biscayne Landing plat in accordance with Article 3, Section 3-405 of the City of North Miami Code of Ordinances, Land Development Regulations, providing for an effective date and for all other purposes. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
A point of note here that since I missed the last meeting, I asked and got requested a meeting with staff yesterday to get caught up with what took place at the last meeting. So I wanted to disclose that to the attorney and to this panel that I did spend time with Tanya yesterday in getting a briefing as to the items that were covered at the last meeting.
All right, and you did read the minutes, so
yes,
you had that verbatim report from last month?
Correct.
All right.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The recommendation is that the Planning Commission recommends approval and issuance of the proposed conditional use permit.
Can you speak a little slower and a little louder because I don't hear well?
Certainly.
Thank you.
The recommendation is that the Planning Commission recommends approval and issuance of the proposed conditional use permit for the conceptual master development plan map with conditions for the Biscayne Landing plat, the subject development in accordance with Article 3, Section 3-405 of the city's land development regulations, and forward said resolution to the City Council for final consideration. Just to provide some background, Mr. Chair, on May 23rd, 2012, the Mayor and Council of the City of North Miami adopted Resolution R2012-67 authorizing the execution of a lease agreement between the City and Alida Partners, LLC, that's the developer, for the master development of the Biscayne Landing plat, consisting of approximately 184 acres in size. Section 7.1 of the executed agreement references a conceptual master plan map, which serves as a general guideline for the development of the premises and identifies future phases, timing, and location of permitted uses contemplated as a part of the project. That conceptual master plan map that's given as an exhibit in the lease agreement has been attached to your staff report as Exhibit A. And as indicated in Section 7.1 of the lease agreement, location and boundaries shall not be changed without the written consent of the landlord, and that is the city. Additionally, pursuant to Section 3-401B of the city's land development regulations, all plan developments are required to obtain a conditional use permit with specific guidelines and development standards as established by council for the implementation of the proposed development, consistent with the terms of the executed lease agreement. As such, in January 2013, the developer filed an application with the Community Planning and Development Department requesting approval of the conceptual master development plan, which was subsequently revised as depicted in Figure 1 below of the staff report by virtuance of an issuance of a conditional use permit attached as Exhibit B for the Biscayne Landing site. The proposed master plan was reviewed by the city's Development Review Committee, which issued a recommendation of conditional approval with comments from various city departments. Just to give you an overview of the development summary itself, the subject mixed-use development is a proposed master plan project on the 184-acre city-owned site and former landfill located on the southeastern quadrant of the intersection of Northeast 151st Street and Biscayne Boulevard. The site is currently zoned planned development with a land use mixed-use medium allowing a density of 40 dwelling units per acre, and is also located within the boundaries of the city's Regional Activity Center. The Regional Activity Center is a state-designated district intended to encourage regionally significant developments that promote mass transit, bicycle paths, pedestrian connectivity within the vicinity of Florida International University, Alida State Park, and the Biscayne Boulevard corridor, in order to create an attractive, functionally integrated community that provides living, working, shopping, educational, and recreational opportunities. And as such, the executed lease agreement calls for a conceptual master plan which identifies all the proposed phases and uses of the development, which includes a mix of 4,315 residential units, including 560 units as part of the proposed assisted independent living facility, 150 hotel rooms, and 1,172,256 square feet of commercial retail use, including 373,940 square feet auto mall, 10,000 square feet community center, a 7.2 acre active park, and 43 acres of open space. Based on the city's land development code, there are standards that must be met for the approval of the conditional use permit. That's been outlined in Article 3, Section 3-405 of the code. And staff has provided an analysis outlining how the proposed application meets the requirements and the guidelines as stipulated in the code. And as such, based on staff's recommendation of approval, staff has also included a list of 15 conditions, Mr. Chair, and at your request, I could read each of the conditions into the record.
Since this is for television purposes, yes, go ahead, read them in.
Okay, so the conditional approval that's being recommended by staff. Condition number 1 says the applicant shall comply with all conditions listed in Exhibit B of the approved conditional use permit. Condition 2, applicant shall coordinate with the City Attorney's Office to amend the lease agreement dated May 29, 2012 to replace the existing conceptual master plan map, Exhibit B, with the newly approved conceptual master development plan. Condition 3, applicant shall submit draft development agreement to the Community Planning and Development Department outlining commitment to capital facilities planning to ensure the provision of adequate public facilities for the master development. 4, submit an amended conditional use permit application and precise plan for each future phase of the development, showing detailed site layout, building architecture, massing, elevations in accordance with the city's zoning regulations. Condition 5, coordinate with City of North Miami Beach regarding gaining access via the proposed extension of Northeast 146th Street to Biscayne Boulevard, since that portion lies inside the jurisdiction of the City of North Miami Beach. Condition 6, comply with utility recommendations of the city engineer based on comments provided in the DRC report dated January 8, 2013 to ensure water and sewer lines are appropriately sized. Condition 7, bonding or financing guarantee. Prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant shall deposit with the Department of Community Planning and Development a cash bond, surety bond, or time deposit bond in an amount equal to 110% of the estimated cost of any and all improvements which may be required within the dedicated rights-of-way or public facility easements to ensure the placing thereof. Condition 8, developer will pay applicable impact fees to the city prior to the issuance of building permits for each phase of the development. Condition 9, applicant agrees to provide a supplemental traffic analysis of Northeast 151st Street and Biscayne Boulevard from 1:15 p.m. to 3:15 p.m. to accurately assess the currently failing intersection and work with all partners involved, FIU, the county, Florida Department of Transportation, Miami-Dade School District, and the city to develop a proportionate fair share solution to resolve or alleviate the failing intersection. Condition 10, a demand management program. The applicant shall submit a transportation demand management program to the city for each vertical construction phase of development. Said plan to be submitted to Miami-Dade Transit and Florida Department of Transportation in accordance with policy 1.14 and 1.26 of the city's comprehensive plan. The TDM program shall be appropriate to the size, scale, and location of the proposed development and shall demonstrate that every effort will be made to ensure the proposed transportation strategies will reduce the traffic impacts anticipated from the proposed development. The TDM shall propose multimodal transportation alternatives such as connected sidewalks, bicycle parking, transit facilities for bus or shuttle stops, and carpooling to alleviate the added traffic anticipated from the site. Condition 11, prior to submittal of each conditional use permit for individual phases, the applicant shall provide an updated traffic analysis to the Director of Community Planning and Development with proposed mitigation strategies to alleviate the anticipated impacts. Condition 12, for the traffic analysis, the applicant must comply with recommendations provided by contract engineers with Kittleson and Associates dated January 22nd, 2013. Condition 13, Within 45 days of council adoption, work with city staff to establish a brownfield program and explore possible tax credit opportunities that may be available. Condition 14 for the school impact report, the Miami-Dade County Public School concurrency analysis indicates that the proposed development does not meet school concurrency level of service standards, and as such, the applicant is strongly encouraged to identify property within the development for the construction of a public school to accommodate the additional school capacity anticipated from the proposed development and minimize further impacts to the already overcrowded K through 12 Miami-Dade County Public Schools adjacent to the proposed site. The applicant agrees to meet with the city and the Miami-Dade County Public School staff to discuss the appropriate mitigation needed to satisfy school concurrency requirements. And the final condition, condition number 15, comply with all requirements stipulated in the city's executed lease agreements. Mr. Chair, that ends my staff report at this time. And the applicant is here and wishes to speak on the item at this time.
Anyone desiring to speak this evening on this item, please stand. This is a quasi-judicial item. Stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm?
Anyone wishing to speak, stand, raise your hand.
Your right hand, ma'am. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you provide is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. You may be seated.
All right, will the applicant please come forward?
Good evening, Commissioners, Chair, staff, City Attorney. Maxine, how you doing? My name is Herb Tillman. I'm the Executive Officer responsible for the development of Biscayne Landing, what project that you know of Biscayne Landing, on behalf of Olita Partners. As some of you may remember, we were before you approximately a month ago with an application for conditional use permit and a conceptual master plan. That master plan was met with various exceptions, some by the commissioners, some by the residents that were in attendance. We have some of these exceptions were such that they would prefer that a local architect be engaged that's familiar with South Florida conditions as opposed to a Texas architect that we brought in here. We didn't have a problem with that. We've actually selected one of, in my opinion, one of the better, if not the best, local architect in this area, Kobe Karp. He's here to give the presentation. Some of the other exceptions were that the automobile dealerships were a bit too large or vast or took up too much space. We reduced them. One of the other exceptions was a previous conceptual master plan showed some senior living facilities, and it was pointed out that there were none shown on the previous master plan that we presented a month ago. This plan does show some, since we've had a couple of these facility operators come to us in the past 4 weeks with an interest in building on the site. Residential buildings that were in the previous submittal were commented on rather widely from the audience, as well as at least one commissioner, that they appeared to be substandard in design and quality, and maybe even in product. We've addressed that as well in some of the visual that you will be shown here tonight. Further, it was pointed out that the retail center appeared to be, I think the term was too commercial, that it lacked some lifestyle type of retail and maybe needed more restaurants. We've attempted to do that as well. It was pointed out that there was not enough open space or amenities or green spaces. We've increased that, the green space, by approximately 20%. We've added some various water features, which I understand there will be some questions on later. I'll be glad to entertain them. And finally, it was pointed out by several members of the community that the previous developer had made an extended effort to involve the community with various town hall meetings in the development of what the product was going to be on site. And I was even asked by one of the commissioners here how soon we could have one. We had one about 2 weeks ago, and some of you attended. Various members of the public attended. As a matter of fact, there were about 70 people showed up. Most of the discussion was about the content of the master plan. We've tried to address some of those concerns, and some discussion was about other items not related to this presentation or to what is before you tonight. With that, I'm not going to go into much other detail other than to present Kobe Karp. We did bring the audiovisual equipment here so that we could present this on the drop-down screen. If you'd like to come around and have a seat, you probably get a better view of it than on the monitors there.
Can you hear me on this? Hi, can you hear me?
No, no.
Hi, can you hear me? All right, hi. My name is Kobe Karp. I'm the architect for the project. Address is 2915 Biscayne Boulevard, Miami, Florida. I'll be brief and I'll just walk you through the presentation that we made to the neighbors at the workshop, which happened about a week ago. What I'll do is I'll try to briefly go right through it so you can see it. We did make some additional modifications and changes which will provide us an information in the community meeting. So we implemented some of those things, and maybe I can show that to you too. In essence, BIBA is just the name that we have, Biscayne Bay. If you can give me the next picture, please. We basically, you've seen this, that's boring. This is our site, and it is unique, and when we looked at it, I just want to give you our concept and our thought process, how we got to where it is today, is that we have the site, and we've looked at it, and yes, there is accessibility from Biscayne, there's accessibility on 151st, and we're looking at ways to make accessibility and more connectivity, both pedestrian, vehicular, electric cars, bicycles, whatever we can, into the site. At the same token, there is, the site is sitting next to Oleta Park, which is very nice and has a lot of green space, and we thought it'd be very nice to take the assets around us and integrate them into our property. We are immediately to the south. We have the trailer homes right here. We have the commercial big boxes, Costco, Publix, Target, right along US 1. And then we also looked at the connectivity 151st and how it brings itself into FIU district, and then the existing apartment buildings which have been built along the hammocks. We looked at the site, which is substantially parallel, which does create a nice opportunity to look at the site in kind of a unique fashion, but at the same time to be realistic as what is in context and the neighborhood, including the waste management, sewage treatment areas. But what we did like and what we felt is a very nice asset is the green and the mangroves that are surrounding us, and we felt it would be nice to pull that green carpet onto our property and use that concept of park and natural preserve in using non-exotic, natural, contextual plant materials on our project here. Next picture, please. So we took the site, which is now substantially has contamination, which we're cleaning and a lot of dirt, and we looked at the surrounding green, and we said it'd be kind of neat to bring it and pull it into the property, and we used that as inspiration. And at the same time, we looked at ways that you'll see on the site how to connect both vehicles and pedestrian, and not only right here on Biscayne and 151st, but also to create community connectivity over where the residences are to the south. And also, if you drive along this road, you'll see that there's a whole interaction and pedestrian movement that can really be very unique as a destination for Oleta Park. Next picture, please. So what we did is we came up, this is the site plan that we presented at the last meeting, where basically we broke up the area into districts. We have a district here, which is independent living facility with assisted living. We have a district here, which is an oval park with a commercial We have a district here which is more commercial with a linear park that ran right through the middle, which then connected onto the oval park, which then connected onto this a lake area. And again, just to differentiate, we have existing lake which has some contamination, but these water bodies are like new fountain areas which we completely separated from the contaminated area. So that would be in the existing swale area. And the reason we did that is, more specifically, just to back up for a second, is along Biscayne Boulevard, the NGVD is about 7. And then the site steps up about 10 feet, steps up 20 feet, and then steps down back to the water's edge. So what we thought it would be an opportunity, if you will, to plinth the site. And for example, you'll see that Costco, for example, needs some parking. So we thought it'd be nice to introduce the parking underneath this area to get them more parking. Yet at the same token, as you slowly ramp up 10 feet, have this whole linear park and oval park area connect to the residential and connect onto the commercial and to the independent living facility, or if we have a school area in the project, connected to the community park and the community center that we have over here. And in essence, what we did is we took the residential, which then relates to the existing residential over here. They can connect both, you'll see in the plans I'll show you, in pedestrian, it can connect electric cars, bicycles, foot traffic, rollerblades, what have you. It can have connectivity along here. There is basically a residential component, and this area right here, this district, sits up about 10 feet above this area, and this area sits about 10 feet above Biscayne Boulevard. So that's how we dealt with the grades and created, if you will, the separate districts, and at the same time created physical separations, which gave opportunities not only to separate the commercial use within the community, but also create landscape buffers, which I'll go into detail on that. So, for example, if you go on to the next slide, what you will see is that we have taken, that's the area that slides underneath where the Costco is, where they would have a little bit more parking. Go to the next picture, please. And then this is a blow-up of, if you will, the northern district, 151st, where there is an opportunity to create the car exhibition where it's vertical instead of horizontal. So, for example, if you look at the Bremen car dealerships, which integrate themselves into Biscayne Boulevard quite nicely, you can walk around, you can have food and beverage there. At night, you can come down from the residences. We see this community as a destination where people would actually, in the residences, would come down, they would live in the community, they would walk the commercial area. There would be a theater that we have, yet the theater is, you see right here, the theater has, it's an indoor theater, but it also has an outdoor seating area that opens up to the park. So at night we can have shows and exhibits, and we can have movies and plays outside, outdoor, as well as inside. We have the pedestrian link that connects all the way around the lake that floats, and then it connects also, if you will, if you want to come and grab something to eat, look at a car that you want to buy, that you want to lease, and then it connects over here to the independent living facility, which then has multiple buildings basically nestled within the park, and there's a bridge that connects them all together. And the rooftop of this parking structure is the green space. So the folks who live in this community can actually bridge across, come to the rooftop of this amenity area, and look over the lake, look over the oval town square, and over the linear park. So that we started to create three-dimensional green spaces, not only at the ground level, but also on top of the parking structures. And that helps us with the constructability and the phasing of this project as they go through, and have them relate to each other, that they're basically ideas of buildings sitting within a park. So that's this district right here, which connects, I mean, some of you have been to where the road comes and stops at this location. There's the lake. And even the lake, what we thought we would do is create plinths that would come down closer to the water. So if you wanted to put boats in there and sailboats and so forth, there can be interaction. But in essence, you can walk all the way around the lake, connect to the commercial area. If you can go to the next picture, please. Here it is better. You can see how the lake then connects to the theater, indoor-outdoor theater, how there's indoor-outdoor dining. And again, we call this an oval park, but this oval park has commercial uses within it. So you can go down to the park, you can have a coffee, you can sit there, you can have a sushi. You can take your dog for a walk. There'll be pedicure, manicure for the dog areas. For the kids, there's mommy and me areas. There is a care for prenatal and so forth. But all of that would then connect onto the linear park. And again, the linear park is an interactive facility. So it would be open and available for people to walk and jog and walk their dogs, both in the morning and at night. So we see people in the community coming down from the residential, sitting in this area, having a cup of coffee, but we also see a lot of people in the neighborhood coming here, because this would create us a public square where none really exists. For example, the city of Aventura, which is a very nice city, the Aventura Mall is where people go to congregate. The City Hall is a very nice building, but it really doesn't have a public space, if you will. There's the baseball fields right next door, but they're quite small and tiny. Here, so in Aventura, for example, you walk around the golf course. So what here we would have is something like that, but you would walk around the lake, you'd walk around the oval square, you come to the linear park, you can walk the whole residential community. So you have a place where people in the community can actually come, park their car, or they can drive to here, or they can take their bicycle to here. They can leave it and they can shop, eat, dine, theater. There's gym, there's bowling alley. There's a lot of activities in here, which would be the town square for the community. So that kind of is the thought process for where we came about. If you can go to the next slide, please. Then this is the commercial area, which again has a completely separate a loading area. And what you can see is that we come in on the residential. You have a boulevard, which will show you with trees, big trees, oak trees, live oak trees, poincianas. We're looking at trees that create shade, that create privacy, and create also a visual separation between the residential and for example, this loading area, which is set down 10 feet, about 3 meters. And then the folks who live in the residential can drive all the way around, because then what happens is people who come on Biscayne to alleviate the traffic. You saw we have multiple points of entry and exit. What we want is people to come in on 151st, but if somebody lives here and they want to come off of Biscayne, they can come in here, they can go right across to their building. If they want to exit, they can continue to drive around the boulevard and come right out. And over here is where we have the community center. We have parks at the end, so that you have an opportunity to just walk along the mangroves. For example, if you go, I like to go to Houston's right up here, and what I like about Houston's, I can come outside and there's a beautiful walk outside. I like that experience, and we've implemented that public walk that goes all the way around. So people in the community, and let's say I don't live in this community, I can come here, I can walk along the nature center, I can walk along the linear park, I can walk along the oval plaza. Next picture, please. And that's more of a blow-up of how the connectivity is between the residential phasing community. It's basically buildings as we nestle them within the green space within the park. We had some comments at the last meeting, which I'll get to, but you see this building here. Some people said, it'd be kind of cool if it was this park was a multi-purpose park, then connected to the oval park, which would then connect to the linear park and to the community park with the baseball fields on the corner, and then even connect this green space onto the lake space. So you'll see that what we did since the last submission, we kind of evolutionized that a little bit. But you can see how basically the residential has its components, and there can be built in phasing, and even the rooftops of the garages are looking to be amenity areas. So people who look down not only to the east and to the northeast and to the southeast would have great views also looking back into the community itself. And it's kind of interesting if you drive along 95 and you go up on our Everglades interchange, and you're up about, 50, 70 feet up in the air, you look and you slow down. I don't recommend you to stop, but if you look to the north, you will see the towers of Aventura and Sunny Isles Beach. And then you'll see a gap, And then you look to the south and you'll see Bell Harbor and Miami Beach and even downtown Miami all the way down to the south. But that gap is where Hallover is, and the beach and the park, the bay, Oleta Park, and where our community is. So that's kind of where that gap is. So from a visual standpoint, at the ground level, if we pull the green carpet in and we make it interactive where it's part of the community, when you rise above the mangroves about 30, 40 feet up in the air, you have a great vista and opportunity to look over the bay. You can look to the northeast and you can see Sunny Isles Beach and Aventura. You can look to the east and have an open view of the bay and Hallover. You can look to the southeast and you can see Bell Harbor and you can see Miami Beach. And if you look all the way to the south, you'll see downtown Miami. So it's kind of a unique destination if you can just bear, dealing with the local issues. Of whether it's connectivity or the big boxes on the west, whether it's the sewage treatment plants to the north, and so forth. But if you go on to the next picture, I don't want to. This is how we kind of made legends and how we broke up the districts. The districts being here, for example, where the independent living facility is and the assisted living facility, with the car and the commercial being here. And I say it's car and commercial because you'll have food and beverage and restaurants within that area, so it's interactive. It's kind of nice to go again to Bremen or even the Lexus dealership up where it's a vertical shopping experience. That's kind of what we're looking for. For example, there's nothing wrong with that at seeing the car. I mean, if you go to South Beach or to Lincoln Road and Alton Road, right smack on the corner, they built a parking structure, and then the parking garage is exhibiting the cars. And if you play with the architecture, it can be used where people can live on top. It can be an exhibit space. There's actually a retail floating up in space. And at the ground level, there's commercial that goes all the way around on the 1111 building. Even Rodeo Drive in California and other locations, the car can be used as part of our experience in life. And it's also where we can pick up electric cars and so forth. So it becomes a unique experience for us. This right here is the green space of the lake. This is the building that we were asked to look at to relocate, maybe someplace over here to make more connectivity with our community park center, and then connect it with the oval plaza of the building of the site. And the reason this is oval again is that it has a one-way drive, so people can park on both sides, kind of like Miracle Mile. But then when you get out, you from one storefront to the next, you can see people, and you can see the distances is close enough. And when you look at the great piazzas and the plazas where you have that commercial, it works quite well. So it's a one-way drive. You can park on both sides. You can go to the theater. You can go to the bowling alley. You can go to the gym. You can come and have coffee in the park and so forth. But what happens is that it's basically a plaza, both pedestrian and residential. We have a hotel here, and then we have the commercial that goes all the way around. That's our residential component, which is in line again along the mangroves and connects to the residential component that exists there now. Next picture, please. This is called technology, and sometimes it fails. Is that the next picture? Thank you. And what we did is to show the circulation. You can see all the vehicular and the pedestrian circulation goes around, and how the commercial is broken up around the oval space and the linear park that comes all the way around over here. Next picture, please. This is kind of an interesting. This is the bicycle and pedestrian circulation at the site, where we're looking to have a substantial amount of connectivity for pedestrian electric cars. And transportation through the site. Next picture, please. Again, this is the vehicular access, and you can see how what we're trying to do is specifically is keep the loading in the back and separate, and yet have the complete connectivity for the residential and the traffic to flow on multiple points of entry and exit, not only on Biscayne, but also on 151st. And now we're looking to make connectivity in these neighborhoods here as well. Next picture, please. These are the districts that we have. The independent living facility, we have the commercial, we have the residential, the park, the green spaces. Next picture, please. And this is an image that I brought just based on the last discussion. What we did here is you can see the oval space with the park and the interactive. And then we had the residential building here. We took it and we relocated it here, closer to the community center and to the parks, because now we have an opportunity, if you will, to take the green park here, connect it with the linear park with a pedestrian mall, connected to the oval space, connected even to the mixed-use exhibit park over here, where we can have fresh produce. On Sunday, we can have a market, we can have an exhibition, we can have a show outside, we can have a tennis match, we can have set it up, if you will, for Christmas trees, Hanukkah lighting, Kwanzaa, whatever you like. We can have a multi-purpose park that then brings not only the local community in this Biba, but also in the rest of North Miami, city of Aventura, and further, because this really doesn't exist anywhere. So it really creates an opportunity of converting these acres into a multi-purpose function, urbane solution that helps us come to, I think, to life. If you go to the next picture, just for example, this is a more of a graphic symbolization where the park would be. This is the oval park, this is the linear park, and you can see that now we're looking to connect it to the community park over here, connected to the lake experience all the way around. This is what we kind of did, and we showed how, you can have the market on certain days, you can make it a play field. We're looking to connect the pedestrian up and over the vehicular with just a simple flowing pedestrian bridges where we need to connect. But again, the trees are deciduous and they're big and they're letting shade. We can create running tracks and playground areas and indoor-outdoor cinema and theater, and then the exhibition spaces just become more multifaceted and very strong. And as a destination, people, I think, would come here, not only from North Miami or the city of Aventura, but the whole community. People who come here from the North Beach area, they would come here. I think it's just a nice destination where people would have a green space, a park, shopping, eating, dining experience, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week if they wanted to. Next picture, please. That's boring. Next. That's the numbers already in program. Next. This is kind of important. You see, what we did is we took the public right-of-ways and created trees, more trees, and which are poincianas, for example, oak trees. Barry can go into all kinds of details, but we're looking to create more shade trees, which relate more to where we are. We're in Oleta. So if we can pull that green carpet, and bring it to our site, it would make it a community and a destination second to none. I mean, one of the things that appeals people when they go to Coconut Grove or Coral Gables, you drive within a very nice deciduous area that has a nice tree canopy. And then what happens even when the hurricanes come, you lose the green foliage, but it comes back the following years. So those are the kind of things we're looking for. Next picture, please. And again, we have that on all sides. And creating, obviously, not only the vehicular, but also the pedestrian. Next picture, please. That would shade and hide the cars substantially. Next picture, please. We made some 3D massing just to show you how the buildings, relate to the edge of the green, and then how they relate to each other, because then what happens is a lot of space also in between the buildings. Next picture. This is kind of just a massing study of how the green space and the water space, and then you can have the pedestrian movement that goes all the way around. But it starts to give us the feeling of the nice spaciousness between the buildings. Next picture, please. This is kind of looking again at the boulevard that goes all the way around and shows you what the buildings can be. Basically, buildings nestled within a park. I don't want to say it's Central Park, because Central Park is passive. We have commercial uses like you would have in Rothschild Boulevard, or if you're familiar with South, like Panama and Rio de Janeiro, you have that kind of a feeling in the urban parks. Next picture, please. And that's looking back into the Oleta, and then you really get an opportunity to have buildings that can come in phases. Next picture, please. the relationship to the oval park right here. Next picture. This is kind of interesting. This is Biscayne Boulevard, if you will, on 151st, and this is the vertical car commercial district. This is the rooftop that looks over the lake, that looks over the oval space and over the linear park, and then it looks down into the opportunity to create all these green spaces and park spaces within where people can walk and interact and connect in the community. Next picture, please.
Where are the existing homes? Can you go back to the slide?
Yeah.
Where are the existing buildings?
Kenny.
The existing buildings are right here. They would be right here. This is just a progress image that we did. We haven't yet, you can see what we did is we took, for example, the commercial and we placed it here, but we haven't yet three-dimensionalized that. We need to do that because I just wanted to show you some progress since the last meeting that we had. Next picture, please. This is the lake and how we propose to have it, that you can walk around, you can connect to it.
What is the size of that lake? How many acres?
That's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head. Do you know the size of the existing lake?
Existing lake's about 7 acres.
7 acres.
Is that based on the existing, or is it a new lake?
Oh no, we were looking to keep the existing lake and maintain it and find ways to clean it. And any new water bodies would be completely disengaged from it. Kind of like you would have a pool and a jacuzzi. They look like they're connected or they're nearby, but there's a complete separation and a wall between the two bodies of water. Next picture, please. That's it? That's it. Thank you so much for your time. I'm here to answer any questions, and you can turn on the lights because I've made boards also, and I'd be more than happy to show you anything that you'd like.
I want to ask about that lake again.
Yeah.
We need to get up front and make a public hearing and do that.
Okay.
What do you want to do here?
That's okay.
Yeah, we're gonna have one, not on the record. We have to get up front and raise the screen and work off the boards. Mr. Karp, I want to thank you very much for that presentation. I know a number of the board members have questions, and before we open the public hearing, we'll let the commissioners ask such questions as they may have. Ms. Harwitz, you may go first.
The lake. First of all, Mr. Karp, are you familiar with the property in terms of its vertical composition?
You mean the vertical composition of the lake?
It was a garbage dump.
Yes.
It was one of the busiest garbage dumps in Dade County for
Yes.
7 or 8 years,
Yes.
with an average depth throughout the site of 18 feet.
Yes.
Okay. And then you're talking about things to be at 10 feet. What happens to the top 8 feet of the dump?
Yeah, just so I'm clear, the road right now is basically at, let's say, 7 NGVD, and if you drive by, you'll see that it steps up about 20 feet. So what we have done is what we're looking to do is displace the soil that is on the site and create the opportunity to have a plinth at 10 feet higher and then another plinth at 10 feet higher, which is the residential. Let me just, give me a second. So, for example, what happened here is that to go from Biscayne Boulevard to this level right here, there is a 10-foot NGVD grade change. And then when you go up over here, there's another 10-foot NGVD change. When you come back to where the mangroves are in the water line, it drops down. So what we did is we thought that it would be, number one, and Mr. Tillman can speak about the lake. Yes, you are right. This drops down about 15, 20 feet.
I'm
And
sorry, what did you just say?
it drops down. The water depth is about 15, 20 feet,
I thought it was 30.
30 feet. Thank you. But what we are looking to do is to find a way to make a park and a green space around the water body where people can walk around. Then they can connect on to the oval park and onto the linear park. But of course, you know, Herb can speak to you about what it is that they need to do about the lake.
Well, the thing you said, somebody said that was a 7-acre body. Is that what they that piece is 7 acres?
Yeah, the question was how large the lake surface was. It's approximately 7 acres today. It was a borrow pit. It needs to be reconfigured. Our intention is to fill part of it and to reconfigure the lake shore on the rest of it so that it can accept human traffic to the lake edge without the danger of slipping in and falling off the edge.
So
it's gonna
when
require
you talk
some
about reconfiguring it, you're talking about filling it in or
Filling part of
expanding
it.
it?
filling part of it.
Filling part of it to
Right.
create some kind of a gradient? Is that what you're talking
That's
about?
correct. And also to create the property use that we have identified for the, pardon me, for the auto dealers, as well as to push part of that lake out where it appears to connect with the water feature that runs throughout the rest of the
Okay,
site.
well then that's the next question.
Right.
He mentioned that the water features are to completely separated from the contaminated areas. Does that mean these water features are going to be created on top of the garbage dump?
That's correct. They're like, I guess you would call it like a lazy river. They are similar to a swimming pool, if you will. They're completely contained, lined. They have a structured bottom. There's going to have to be some recirculating pumps that, you know, catch the water at one end and send it back to the other. It's going to have to be kept clean, such as what you would do with a swimming pool.
Where will the water come from that goes into the contained area?
It's
I
gonna
mean,
be
the lakes are rock pits that are filled with the groundwater, which is contaminated. And is this contaminated groundwater then going to be fed into these artificial features?
No.
What's going to go into the artificial features? What kind of water?
Just pool water, swimming pool water.
Swimming
that is
pool
balanced.
water. So will it connect to the contaminated water?
No, ma'am.
There'll be a wall.
Will not. Totally separate body altogether.
Okay, so it looks like it's connected, but it won't be.
Correct. And we have the opportunity to do that with our highway that passes right through there. That'll be the natural separation point.
So, and then you will have then, like, it would be like, as swimming pool water is going to be recirculated and cleaned. Is that what you're talking
That's
about?
correct.
Have you talked to Durham about this?
No, we're not. We're not even close to that phase yet. Our process is to get approval through the Planning Commission to the City Council, and then we approach Durham with more precise planning.
Okay, I guess another question is, I guess Mr. Karp, as an architect, also works with landscape architects and has knowledge of plant nurseries and things like that. Mr. Karp, do you have experience with dump sites, growing trees on dump sites, native trees on dump sites in Florida?
Well, there has been in the past, obviously, various contaminated areas that.
I'm sorry, I cannot hear you.
There has been contaminated areas in Florida that have been cleaned up, and landscaping is a very good way to improve that. There are many brownfield areas that what you do is you do exactly this. You come up on it and you separate the contaminated lake, for example, from the water features. You separate the dirt and you let it air, and you let the landscaping come and grow out of it. You don't have a problem with the landscaping growing out of it. The landscaping is going to be able to grow. It is a dump site. We do have trailers to the south. We do have waste management issues in the waste management immediately to the north. Yeah, there are issues with that site, but certainly they can be dealt with in a fashion that allows us to control the water runoff, the lake, and separate and segregate the contaminated area with the area that's healing. And that's what's good about this site. It's in a healing process, and hopefully one day it'll be substantially healed. But we need to get that process started and done correctly. The lake, as you noted, is contaminated, but if you look at the plan which I passed to you, it says the reshaped lake, because we do have to maintain that body of water, and we have to separate it from the other bodies of water that we are proposing, and we have to separate it also from the water runoff.
But the trees aren't separated from the contamination. The trees grow in the contamination, and trees that they planted many years ago all died.
And that's why there is a way to plant material and bring soil there, which is fresh and maintains it and lets the tree grow. And there are opportunities to plant material in brownfields. It's been done many times before.
I think Kenny wanted to get in there. Kenny, did you have some questions from the floor before?
There are several questions I have, but I'll wait, Kevin. Thank
All right, go ahead, Mr.
Yeah,
Francis.
it's a follow up regarding the lake. The lake is in a current location, a current configuration, and I'm wondering if the perception of that lake is that, well, technically I believe it is still somewhat toxic. The perception is that it'll continue to be toxic no matter what sort of gets done down the line. It'll still be, possibly considered somewhat of a cesspool. It's part of the original project, part of the original complications of the land. I'm not too convinced that that location is the best place for a lake either. We're saying about views and such, yet most of the high, if this helps at all, most can that get on screen? Okay. Most of the high rises are fairly far away from this particular lake. We're talking about the back of two commercial buildings rather than the front of it facing onto it. The lake then looks through some vegetation here onto the loading docks. Over here, it's the back side of the car dealership, and over here, people are kind of rushing by. This isn't the main entrance and exit for the residential area, so it's not that they're being necessarily so treated to this view of the lake. As well as that, the assisted living areas and such over here, a little bit removed. And I pose the question, could this be a case of the tail wagging the dog? If you were to have the clean slate and we were to have the outline of this property, would we really say that's where we put the lake and generate everything else around this? It's 184 acres, and you've already shown us that you're willing to do additional water features. We know that this lake is problematic. There's also discussion of taking some fill out and relocating it. There's also discussion of possibly taking the fill out of this area where the car garage, a double-level garage would be, and I don't know exactly where you're going to be relocating that, but might this not be an opportunity to combine all those efforts to say maybe we can wipe clean the past here and, as I've said before, possibly reconfigure some things in the design, which maybe I could, rather than speaking too much, I'm just want to stop at the lake and say maybe we could put this effort into the nice clean water features elsewhere where they really make an impression, where they are at prime locations for the traffic pattern, for the residential area, where it's not just sort of passing by. And again, leaving exposed to this back loading dock area. So let me just stop there. I'll get back to other design elements after I let somebody else speak, if I may.
All right, thank you. At this point in time, if there are no other questions from the commission at the moment, I'd like to open the public hearing. All All right, let's open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak is invited to step forward. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Hellinger. I'm the receiver of the Oaks 1 Condominium Association at Biscayne Landing. I have not been before this council, but I've been before the city council.
Well, this is the planning commission, sir.
I haven't been before this commission, so in any event, you did hear at the last session from unit owners and residents at the Oaks, and they were vehemently complaining about the design that was presented at that time. And this is a better design and more well thought out, but it seems like it's still percolating. There are 3 points that unit owners have issue with in this design, and I'm going to turn this way and use Mr. Harp's board, and I do commend him. He's done good work in short order. I'm not sure he's got enough time in it yet, but I think he's going to get there. Importantly, the area in their board right here, this is the Oaks, and the Oaks actually has a piece of land that's right here. They're showing in their design a road through the Oaks property, and the city council leased that land to the Oaks for Oaks purposes to finish its community as its own community. And it's possible that the Oaks at one time becomes part of a master planned community of a greater Biscayne Landing again. But the council was smart enough to give enough land to the Oaks to control its own destiny. So that piece of land could be used by Oaks, for instance, as its own ingress and egress. And there's a plan floating where it would become that. This developer would like it because they have the need to have exit and entry points and a traffic light for the amount of traffic that they're going to bring into the site. A light at that location is not necessarily a bad thing, but they just can't come before this council and put a road on the Oaks land without talking to the Oaks. And I think at the last planning commission, the members asked that they meet with us, and they did meet with us, and we had a frank communication about the issues that are important to the Oaks and what they need to do to gain more support from the Oaks. But we're not there yet. One meeting doesn't make an agreement. I think we ultimately may get there, but to the extent this commission would approve a plan that includes this developer showing a road on Oaks property, you just can't do it. At this point, you can't do it. If you're going to approve an area that has some retail area, and they have a residential area, and they have a commercial area, and they have a park area, and they have an ACLF area, those areas of their phasing are not opposed by the Oaks. But the fact that they are seeking to use a portion of Oaks property in their design, that's a bit of a problem as we sit today. There's another problem, and we need to work this out. It is city. This is one big property of city property, and we are tenants of the city. The Oaks is a tenant of the city, like Olita Partners is tenant of the city. There is a drainage and stormwater management system that involves the Oaks. The Oaks drains into a drainage pond. It goes to another pond, which I'll turn to this again. The Oaks, in part, drains into a drainage pond, which is in this area of the property, and it's on the Oaks property, and then it drains into another pond, which is on the Olita portion of the property, and then it continues on to yet another pond, and then drains into this big, colorful lake that sits out there today. They want to, in their plan, close some of those drainage areas, and until we've dealt collectively with drainage, you can't approve a piece of development on a property that today is being used by the landlord to drain water. So that's a problem, and we've had a discussion about that and ways to solve that problem. So any approval this commission would give this developer, well, we would say that it has to be conditioned upon that agreement being worked out with the Oaks Association, the developer, as well as the city. And there are ways to resolve it, but again, it's not being resolved today, and they are jumping a bit of the gun to suggest that you all approve property or development plans on property that right now isn't filled in for development. It's actually been previously approved for a specific purpose, that is stormwater management and drainage. The biggest obstacle that the unit owners of Oaks voiced, not only to this commission, but in the public meeting that was heard a few weeks ago, and to members of the city council, is they view Alita Partners as being an extension of Mr. Swerdlow. He was part of the original developer. Some of them bought at the time that he was part of the development team. And he stood before the city council. He made promises to certain unit owners that when he does this big plan, there would be some contribution to the Oaks and the completion of that community, because his words were that the Oaks buildings were not what he would have built, and they're not pretty to look at, and he's going to build something nicer, and he wanted a contribution to make sure that the Oaks didn't stand out like a sore thumb. He has yet to live up to that promise, and it wasn't in writing, but it was made on the record to the town council, and there were meetings with some unit owners, and so they're quite upset that these plans are coming forward without living up to those promises. And they wanted me to relay to you that those promises were made. They were made publicly. There were communications to back them up, and they're hoping that the city will continue the support of the Oaks residents as they continue this plan. In summary, it's a nice plan. It's a better plan. It needs a little bit more work. And there's one more point that the Oaks residents asked me to convey. They believe that this park down in the corner is almost like an afterthought. It's out of the way. It's not near the residential. Mr. Karp did show you a plan at the end where he connects some parks, and maybe that's the second generation of his plan, but it's not this plan. And so I think what they're asking for is for you to approve areas of development, one phase being retail, one phase being residential, one phase being more commercial in nature, etc., rather than the specific plan, because this specific plan still, in the Oaks residents' opinion, needs a lot of work. They were promised when Mr. Swerdlow was the developer that they would have bike paths and hiking trails and parkland and places to go play with their kids. And here it is, they're in the northeast corner, and here it is stuck all the way in the southeast corner, and that really doesn't make them that happy. There has to be yet a better plan that can be discussed. And the Alita Partners would say, well, the Oaks isn't part of our master plan. It's not part of our leasehold. And we intend to have that discussion, but we don't know what that costs. What does it mean? We know what it cost the last time because the developer, whomever it was at the time, whether it's Boca Developers or a partnership with Swerdlow and Boca Developers, they stuck it to these unit owners. And this is their chance to speak up for themselves. And they intended to be here, and a lot were here. It got late. They have children. They have jobs in the morning, and so they went home. But they've asked me to share that with you. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Don't-
Mr. Ernst.
Don't leave,
Sir.
Don't leave yet.
This
I'm sorry.
question for you from the
A
commission.
question to both them and direct to staff, if I may, regarding this issue. Earlier in the staff presentation, 15 items were listed for conditions for the developer to follow. Can I ask staff why this particular item of the questions that the Oaks have brought forth were not listed in the list of conclusion? If so, can you state for the record that they were neither addressed or they were addressed?
With regard to the issue of the roadway and access, that was provided to the applicant as a part of the DRC analysis and comments. And the applicant did understand, based on the comment provided, that some type of agreement would be needed with the owners of the Oaks in order to access that portion of their property. So that has been made in writing to the applicant. They are aware
Is it
of
listed in the?
It's not actually listed in the staff report itself. We could add that as a condition from the DRC report.
I myself,
that's a
as a member of this body, would like to see some sort of condition added that would add that this would be mitigated or somehow resolved between the Oaks and the developer in order to meet approval for this site plan, or to even move forward tonight, if we can get that. And if it has to be done as a form of a motion, or can that be added to this item now? And
Well, if
there's any other,
Well, what would happen after all is said and done, public hearing is closed, and we have our discussion, we add that as a condition. It would be an item 16 or an item 17 among the conditions that are listed. That is the way that we would deal with that.
would I be out of order to ask if there was any additional input from any of the other members, or disagreement with what I've stated?
Disagreement? No, no disagreement.
None?
No,
Just
I
wanted to add a
think that
couple
the
things.
commission would very likely adopt those recommendations.
Does
but
it have
we're
to be
just-
made as a separate item later on after, when we address that, or can we go ahead and add
It
that
really has to be done at the end.
at the end?
At
Yeah.
the end, since you're capable of either approving as is, or denying, or approving with conditions, that would be one of the conditions you
Okay.
would attach
Yeah.
All right.
to your
This would
approval.
be an attached condition over
Okay.
and above what staff has already enumerated.
And staff clearly understands what I'm getting at. Would that be of satisfaction, that we would have that in writing to your association at the Oaks, that they would follow through with resolving the issue of the road, getting it done tonight?
Well, the Oaks has a lot more than that as concerns. I mean,
Right.
that isn't going to solve the Oaks issues.
But that's the main issue that you question.
It's one of the main issues. I think there are two issues. One is going to be the road and the access, and two is going to be the stormwater management. I think the road and the access is more important because they're cutting through a piece of property that
Right.
the Oaks had in consideration, maybe using that as its own ingress and egress. Although we're happy to consider sharing it, there needs to be an
So
acceptable
staff-
agreement over it.
Well, again, back to staff. Would that have to be two separate items added?
With regard to stormwater management, that is a comment that was provided by our city engineer, and under condition 6 does make reference to his report. But if Commissioner Ernst, you'd like to call that out as just a standalone issue and an additional condition, we could do that. Otherwise, the report issued by the city engineer encapsulates all of those issues.
But I would like for that to be highlighted.
And
So
we
I would-
can do that. If it's your recommendation that that individual issue be called out
Yes.
as a standalone condition, that could be added
Right.
also.
That would be 2 items added to the 15.
Two items added to the 15 that we've already, under the conditions that they would have
So noted.
to agree to it upon getting permission to move ahead with this conceptual plan.
Thank you.
All right?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Each.
you said there were promises made to the Oaks that weren't kept. Could you elaborate on that, please? Was that the pool and the clubhouse?
Well, at several points in the presentation for the RFQ and the RFP, Mr. Swerdlow did make comments to the city council that he would contribute money to the Oaks. He mentioned $2 million. If he bought the units in the Oaks, he mentioned $3 million and then mentioned $4 million. Those are records of the city council. There are records and transcripts of that. There were some communications with unit owners asking for their support and what he would be prepared to do. Mr. Swerdlow would say that none of that was made in writing, it wasn't signed to, it's not a contract. We get it. We get the issue. The problem is when you tell people who bought units in a building that was TCO'd, that was incomplete, in a community where a developer promised they were going to be living in an urban oasis with parkland and walking space and biking space and all the things that go with this urban oasis and convenient shopping and playgrounds. And then you tell them publicly, but don't worry, I'm going to try and make it better for you. They remember. And I'm just the receiver. I don't have a bone here. I'm just the guy in the middle. But a circuit court in the state of Florida appointed me to be their representative and to finish the community. So when they say, Mr. Hellinger, this gentleman who we believed was a well-known developer and we invested in this community because he was part of the development team and he made promises to us and he repeated them publicly, we're not letting you off the hook so easy either in protecting our interests. And for better or for worse, the circuit court judge gave me that job. And I'm relaying to you their concerns, and I think any of you that were at the town hall meeting saw how frustrated they are and how passionate they are about where they live and what they would like to see where they live. And I have to tell you, some of them were impressed with Mr. Karp's plans, but they did take note that for one reason or the other, they were left out. They were left out because they're not part of the master development. The walking path doesn't go behind the Oaks, even though we'll probably have to build it when we finish our community and connect to their walking path, because it's the city's property. It's not necessarily their property alone or our properties alone. There is connectivity, but they were flabbergasted that a developer, and whether it's Mr. Swerdlow or Mr. Lafrac, they are bigger than these unit owners. They are wealthier than these unit owners. They can hire more lawyers than these unit owners. They get that. But they were promised a particular type of investment, and what they ended up closing on was substandard in many of their opinion, and probably in some of this commission's opinion. It was not what was originally pitched to them. The development was incomplete. The building was TCO'd. They were forced to close without amenities, without things that they were promised. And there were developer caveats to get out of all that to make it a very tough fight to pursue on their behalf. So they felt that they were forced to close. Well, this is their opportunity to stand up and be accounted for. And there's 373 of them that are very disappointed that the plans that are being presented are including aspects of their property, which they may not oppose, but without compensation. And unfortunately for Alita Partners, Mr. Swerdlow stood before the city commission, residents, met with some of these unit owners, and set a price. And while there is some negotiating to do, and people will be reasonable, you just can't approve a plan where they use the Oaks property. It's just impossible. Now, we have met with the city and said we are willing to talk about methods to resolve these issues. And we have told the same thing to Alita Partners. And we did have a constructive first meeting. But this plan in front of you does use a portion of the Oaks property, for as small as it is, but it's important for their traffic. And it's also important to Oaks and its traffic. And we need to resolve that dichotomy. And unfortunately, in the minds, in the perception of these unit owners, the developer's the same guy. It's no different. It's a different company, but it's the same guy. And so we think that the conditions you would add would help in making sure that the right thing is done.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak to this item, please come forward, pick your microphone, state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Frank Woland. I live at 12934 Banyan Road. I picked up this magazine on the way in. I don't know how many of you had an opportunity to read the article. It's kind of interesting. It's on page 80 of the Biscayne Times. It says here for April, the pressure is on to wrap up the preliminary site plan this month before the election, while the developers can still deal with a relatively amenable city council. So, ladies and gentlemen, the pressure is on, or I should say, lady and gentlemen, the pressure is on. I don't believe that this plan, and I think Mr. Karp is very well spoken, and it is an improvement over the original plan, but I don't believe that it is consistent with the comp plan. I think there are major traffic issues, and I think there are school capacity issues, and the density of the project keeps growing, add another 1,000 or more units. Now they're talking about 5,000 in rental units and 8,000 parking spaces and thousands and thousands of cars coming in and out of 1 million feet of retail space. And staff's way of addressing this is, let's make conditions. So we'll have conditions about the traffic analysis between this hour and that hour, and conditions about the transportation plan, and conditions about the traffic engineering, and you got like conditions 9, 10, 11, 12. I don't have them in front of me, but you've got them in front of you. And so what you're doing here is you're like, let's push this thing on, let's pass it. We'll talk about the conditions later. And you know the way things happen around here, and I know because I sat up there for about 20 years, nobody talks about them later. They just get swept under the rug. And unfortunately, this board, which I served on for many years, whose job it is to actually do the planning and look at the policies and the goals and objectives and to make a plan, you don't get to plan anything at all. You just get to go, okay, yep, on we go. But, you know, look at these conditions. It ain't going to happen. I was very disturbed. Frankly, I'm glad I don't live at the Oaks. I was disturbed, and those of you who went to the town hall meeting, and, you know, Mr. Hellinger kind of hit it on the head, but it was troubling to me because when you talk about connectivity, and the people who live at the Oaks were saying, but wait a minute, we're not connected. The road doesn't go through here, and the bikeway is not here. And Mr. Swerdlow says, yeah, you know, I didn't connect them because they didn't want to join my association. They don't want to pay their share of this and pay their share of that. So I'm not connecting them. I don't have to connect them. I have a lease. That's pretty much what he said. And I found it to be mean-spirited because the people who are there, it's like they've been kicked a lot. And to go to a meeting and hear someone who's, you know, building this great project with offering all these benefits, basically saying, listen, you're not getting any of the benefits because you didn't want to join my association. And they're going, but what about the $2 million? You promised the $2 million. He's like, no. Well, I did, but that was if I bought the units and I didn't buy them, and, you know. And it was disappointing, and I'd like to hope you, as public officials who are charged with the responsibility of making these decisions, give it much more serious consideration than it's received so far. When we talk about traffic and connectivity, this project is a project unto itself. There is no connectivity to the residences to the south. The people from Highland Village who want to go to this project, they have to go to Biscayne Boulevard to go. The people from FIU have to go out and around to go. There's no connectivity. It's like internally connected. And when you want to see where the bike paths and where the sidewalks, which nobody's really said where the bike paths and where the sidewalks, you can't really tell from the drawings that you've been shown. And if this is consistent with some of the other developments that I've seen, you know, this particular developer do, there are no sidewalks. You have to walk in the street. Notwithstanding all the talk of bikeways and connectivity. And so I encourage you, and I feel this project cries out for a traffic study now, internally, and to deal with the consequences of Biscayne Boulevard and the lights and the traffic that we're all going to have to deal with. Not later as a condition that's going to be, oh, don't worry, they've got their master plan and they're going to keep it, and whoa, there were conditions. We'll talk about that. No. I urge you to deny the project, not to add conditions, but to have them put the conditions on the table now and come back in 2 weeks or next month with a traffic study. And to really talk about connectivity with real experts. And, you know, figure out where the access to the Oaks are. Figure out how they're going to address the problem. Don't just, oh yes, let's add another condition. You know what the city council is going to do. Okay, staff, and yeah, go ahead. And it's not the right thing. It's not right for the people who live there. It's not right for the public who's going to be on the boulevard. And I urge you not to rush through this. And so that's my recommendation.
Thank you,
Nice
Frank.
to see you all, and have a nice evening.
Okay. Next person wishing to speak to this item, please step forward, state your name and address.
My name is Stuart Grant. I'm a coordinator of planning for Florida International University. Good evening. We, in the agenda package that's posted online for tonight's meeting, we found this drawing here, and it includes a connection in the vicinity of 143rd Street that potentially, at some point in the future, would allow for a road connecting to the FIU campus. We heard a lot of talk tonight about connectivity, and FIU believes we do need better connectivity. We think that we would like to have the students and the faculty and staff to have a shortcut through to this project so that they might live in the project, so they might use the restaurants in this project, shop at the stores in this project. Right now there is a dirt road that goes across the property right about where this is shown. It's walkable, it's drivable for at least half the length of about 1,500 feet. We'd like to see the developers make provisions for at least pedestrian and bicycle connectivity to the FIU campus. That is not on their property, it's on city land, but there is that potential for a connection to FIU through the center part, to the center part of the campus there. And so I hope that you'll consider making that a condition. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak to this plan tonight?
Good evening. My name is John Della Gloria, 9155 South Biscayne John Della Gloria. My office is at 9155 South Dadeland Boulevard, Suite 1014. I'm only speaking in response to some of the comments that were made and to try and put this matter into focus for you tonight. The only thing in front of you tonight is kind of an initial conditional use approval for us to go forward. As the staff report indicates, anytime any individual aspect of this site is going to be developed, we have to come back in front of you. So talking about massing will happen in the future. Talking about the lake will happen in the future. This is kind of like the preliminary okay, and then when we come back, and most likely Mr. Tillman will be coming back for the location of the Spine Road, which is the first thing that has to go in. Nothing you're doing tonight is going to approve that concept plan exactly as it exists. Okay? Under the lease we are allowed at our sole discretion to change the concept plan. But anything we do has to come back in front of you as the planning board. And I just want to take a minute to take exception to two of the last speakers, not the gentleman from FIU. It's very nice for Mr. Hellinger to try and litigate his case in front of you this evening. As far as the Oaks is concerned, I think everybody in the room knows Mr. Swerdlow attempted to buy the property. The Oaks would not meet the price. If Mr. Hellinger wants to come back up, if he's still here, and tell you how the Oaks is in total violation of the lease agreement it has with the city because it is practically completely rented out when only 5% of it is allowed to be rented out. Perhaps somebody should ask Mr. Hellinger to, as trustee, who's getting paid a lot of money, to pay attention to that. As far as Mr. Rowland is concerned, we would love to have connectivity with the trailer park, which is in another city. So, and as far as Mr. Swerdlow's reputation is concerned, it's well and good to take pot shots at the guy. If it weren't for the fact that he was involved previously, was bought out by his partners the partners who didn't keep promises to the Oaks, he wouldn't have the ability to come back in and give the city $25 million up front. And you see the staff analysis of how this project is going to bring in about $1 billion to the city over time. None of those issues are important. It doesn't matter how much the Oaks is not in compliance with its lease. It doesn't matter which city owns the trailer park. All you're doing tonight is giving an approval for us to come back in front of you. And if you want to add a condition, go ahead and add a condition. If you don't like what's going on, then by all means, vote no tonight, and we'll be done, and we can all go home and have dinner. But that's what's in front of you tonight, not where the lake is located, not how many units are being built on the property, or anything else. Okay? You're giving an approval for us to come back and get some more approvals. That's all that's happening tonight. Your approval tonight does not allow us to build one thing on that site.
Thank you, John. Anyone else wishing to speak to the commission on this item tonight is welcome to step forward. Anyone else wishing to speak? Third call. Anyone else? Hearing none. Public hearing is closed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for commission discussion. Now, Mr. Ernst has asked for 2 additional conditions to be added. One governing the access road for the Oaks, and the second one on stormwater drainage issues being resolved.
I would like to talk to that.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. I don't think we should be adding any conditions tonight. What I think we should be doing is continuing this matter until these primary issues have been resolved. We have issues about the alignment of the entrance to the property. That's going to change the whole configuration. I did a rough calculation on how many acres of things there are, and I don't frankly see how you can get 4,300 units on the acreage that's left, and when you take out everything for lakes, roads, parks, and everything else. So approving a plan that has 4,300 units tonight when we have so many open issues, I think we need the school board on board. They're going to need land for schools. That's not been taken out of this property. I think that we should continue this matter to get further information and to have further negotiations to resolve some of these issues.
All right, thank you, Ms. Horowitz. All right, Mr. Prevotel.
Can I ask, do we have the figure grounds? Is there a panel? Is there a panel for the figure ground study and the traffic circulation study, if I may? And as well as the panel that's up on the board right now, if we could. We're being asked to forward this project, and the approach is sort of that we are to approve of basically the spine road, and by approving the spine road, you're sort of implying that you accept the massing and the arrangement of the various components. I think there have been great improvements made since the plan of a month ago, and I think it's in the right direction. I think there's some, it has more character, more nuance to it and such, but I think there are still many things that I wonder that there may be room for improvement on. Break down a couple things. If we're looking at the circulation study, this is a prime thing with the with the massing. If we were to come off of, if this is one of the main entrance, I'm sorry, there you go. You can see that? If we were to come off of Biscayne Boulevard, and if this is being declared the primary access road into the property, and you can't quite see it here, but there are the major residential units are along here. You're coming up, you're saying, I live, or not myself, but someone will be living here, and they come up, and to get to this location here, they have to come up, this doesn't happen, this is a service road, this blue. They have to come up from here, they have to pass 1 building, 2 buildings, 3 buildings, 4 buildings, 5 buildings, 6 buildings to get over into this location. They have to do the same thing coming out, and they then get all the congestion from these many buildings. You say, well, is there an alternate way to get out? Yeah, there is. You can go this way, and then if you live in this location, you have to come even further. And if you live here and say, I want to get out quicker, how are you getting out? Are you going this way? No. You're going out this way to the back end of the retail, way over here. You turn 90-degree turn here, 90-degree turn here. You're through the back of all the loading docks, and then you come out. And I really, is that the best we can do in terms of circulation to do that? Are we doing these? Is that really going to increase the value and the desirability of these units? Is it also, I would think, going to be a little bit more congested, that all of these units, if they want to take the more desirable route out, they'll all have to come through here to this one location.
But, Mr. Preval, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you're not correct.
Okay, please correct me.
All right, so basically, if you look at the plan, and you can clearly see that if you wanted to come on this entry right here, which is Northeast 143rd, and you can do that, you can come around here, and you can simply make a right at this juncture right here. And again, and as Mr. De La Gloria has mentioned, there are various ways to make the connectivity. And you can make it here, you can also come through here, and you can also come through this area, and even if you wanted, you can come through this area.
No, but that's exactly what I'm saying.
So I think but I think that you're misguided in reading the plans. If you look at the plan, specifically what it does propose, and again, it comes over here, and you can come around. And by the way, you can also come around here and come all the way around and drive this way. So you have multiple options, William, to do that if that's what you wanted to do. That is not. Well, but again, I think what we're saying is that, as Mr. De La Gloria has mentioned, this is a step forward, and as you mentioned, this is substantially better than what was previously submitted to you, and it's a step in the right direction. But at the same token, it is not the final solution by any stretch of the imagination. And just like in every public hearing that you go to, there are conditions, and I think we are in agreement with staff conditions. We are in agreement with staff conditions and comments on this plan, and we're more than happy to move forward in a positive fashion. Yep. And if you have such comments, I personally will be more than happy to implement them into your comments, just like we did when I met with you at the last workshop. Right. And just like the FIU had comments about the connectivity, about the pedestrian, I think those are doable comments. So I don't think that we need to go into every little nuance, and if you have those comments, I'll be more than happy to do it.
If you'll pardon me, I think, and I thank you for pointing out that exactly what I was trying to say. You affirmed what my concern was. You exactly affirmed it. Basically, everything is coming through this point. Whether you come up this way or you go this way, it's all coming through this point.
No, you're
wrong. Every one of these residential pieces is coming through here.
William, you're wrong. It does not go through that point only. Again, let me just be crystal clear. You can come from here, you can come from here, you can come from here, here, or here.
And they all those points wind up where?
And
where do they all wind up?
Well, this point right here, let me just take you on this point. You can take this road and come all the way around here.
That's my point. My point is exactly what you're saying. Either you come through these 3 or 4 locations and you wind up here, or your alternative is to take the tail end here, to take this long, circuitous, past the loading docks, past the back end, square it off, this long route to get to these things. I mean, I don't like to see the back of a retail center, once a month, once a year. I don't know if I want to see it or if anybody else wants to see it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times a day.
But you wouldn't be
Let me-
able to
if I
see
may-
it.
let me continue.
It's like driving around Aventura
No,
Mall.
let me continue.
But you don't
If you're
see,
gonna- if
you
you're
don't see,
gonna-
when you drive around, but
No, no,
Mr.
it's like
Pravalli,
no,
you're
don't
not,
compare- don't
you're not
compare-
correct.
Gentlemen,
No,
let's
but-
not make a public
Yeah.
debate out of this at this
Yeah,
point.
if I might continue my say.
Thank you, Carr.
Thank you.
Mr. Carr. just-
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Carr. So my point is that we're here to approve of the circulation pattern. That's really probably the primary element of this, and the circulation pattern then locks in your uses, locks in your massing, locks in where the parks are. Everything pretty much gets locked in. You know, the road is here. You have, maybe you can adjust the building left, right, spin it, whatever. You can adjust the park, but they're locked into those locations. I'm asking, is this really, you know, the best we can
But
come
Mr.
up with
Pravalli,
at this time?
you're not saying it correct. The first thing that would have to come in is the Spine Road, and has not even come up in front of you yet, sir.
but-
I understand that, Mr. Carr, but Mr. Prevotel, this is commission discussion at this point.
Yes.
Basically, Mr. Prevotel has to make his argument to the members of the commission.
This shows again. What was just affirmed for me, that whether we come up from here, which is probably your most likely and most desirable location, it appears to be that way graphically, or this way, which looks a little bit like an alleyway, you could choose that too, or through here, you know, if you choose to go past the car mall, the auto mall, and stuff like that. If you live up here and you say, hey, I want to go past those cars because it's convenient or something, but it's basically bringing you to this point. Fairly congested, I would think, with everybody filtering into here, because from here you can't go there. You're coming up and you're going here. So if you live up here, everybody is filtering through this one point. All right? And it was just confirmed there. Or your alternative is to come down this service road, coming way out past the backside of the retail here, backside of retail here. This has changed a little bit from the former one. Previously, there was the backside of retail also to get out. So I don't know if if long circuitous patterns are what we are, if we want to encourage that. I don't think it's in the developer's interest. I don't think it's in the occupants and the residents' interest to have something so long and so sort of disengaged. I'd also like to raise a question that, again, I think improvements have been made, but I'm going to show the figure ground study, which basically a figure ground study is showing the area that's positively built, positive massing as opposed to undeveloped massing, the ground plane, which is mostly in white with the roadways. And in this case, there is, you could see the residential towers with their blocks. And we see the retail here, which doesn't seem to have changed since last time or previously. We have the auto mall area here, and we have that oval component. I'd like to ask the question, if there was one thing that what's the least desirable element in this plan, not in terms of plan, what's the least desirable visual element anywhere on this site? Right? Is it the towers? No, they can be made to look pretty. The oval, probably not. The auto mall will probably be kind of nice, right? The storefronts will probably be nice. I'm guessing, and I think most people agree with me, that the back of the retail, the loading docks, is not a desirable feature. I don't know if there's anybody here that would say, yeah, I want to either drive by it, or even worse, I want to look out my window and see it on a regular basis. And for the life of me, I still don't understand where one of the closest relationships of massing takes place, which we have probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 high-rise towers on top of the backside of this strip mall retail, with not only their road, which could be a nice access road, but their access road is immediately parallel to the loading dock road, which means that you're not planting in the loading dock road. You need that for asphalt and access.
Yeah, but again, Mr. Preval, maybe you missed what I said. There's a level change.
Yeah.
You have a, let me just finish my sentence, if I may.
Just about to address that.
Yeah, there's a level change between the commercial and the residential. We, just like you're saying correctly, have no interest of our units to look into the back of a loading area, which is why if you look at how we have designed it, you have a landscape buffer which then hides the loading in the back. Then there is a level change of 10 feet at least up. Then there is another level of boulevard with double trees on both sides and in the middle. So not only do you not see the loading area, but you also don't see the actual traffic of the cars because you want it to be protected. When you look down, you want that area to be shaded. And that's, let me just finish my thought with you just so we're clear, because I want to be clean on the record that there is a level change between the residential and the circulation of the residential, and that comes down to the commercial, which is why I wanted to promote that, because we have the same interest on that, William. The same thing on the road. Let me just finish. That's why I gave you the sections. Clearly show a boulevard that not only goes through the site, but also goes in a circle around the site, which allows for the circulation to happen freely around. And I only brought up, and I'm sorry that I brought up the Aventura, driving around the golf course, you have the same sort of a scenario where you bring the traffic all the way around and including the Aventura Mall. So you don't have the ability to experience, and I don't want to experience on my project, the loading area. That's why we have a physical separation, a grade separation, and a landscaping separation.
Okay, so you're saying that from this access highway, the double highway that has a few trees on it, that is right up against the loading dock asphalt that is now a 10-foot pit below it, you're saying there's going to be no sensation of knowing that's a loading dock back there. You're not saying that these things are completely invisible. If it's 10 foot up above, how high is your retail component? No, how high is your retail component?
No, Mr. Chairman, you have to understand what's going on here tonight. Okay? If we were in front of you for a conditional use permit to build the shopping center, then this would be a really interesting discussion. We're doing no such thing tonight, Mr. Peralta. Okay? Nothing you are saying tonight is germane in any way to the item that's in front of you. And I hope you can try and understand this.
I think if you will...
it is not germane in any way to anything that's in front of you. You're a planning board member. Try and understand what the issue is.
And I'm addressing...
This issue has nothing to do with what you're addressing.
All right, John.
Do you understand?
It is my time to speak, thank you.
Do you understand
Gentlemen.
that every comment you have made is utterly irrelevant to tonight's item in front of this board?
I'm sorry, our planning board is not going to accept any crap from you.
Excellent, excellent. Then vote no. I'm very happy with this board voting no this evening. Okay? If you voted unanimously to approve what's in front of you, we can't build anything. If you vote unanimously against it, we can't build anything. We have to keep coming back in front of you for anything we want to do. Okay? So we're not going to accept a continuance because we're not changing a thing.
John, we understand all that.
Right.
You don't have to keep talking.
Apparently I do.
You're repeating yourself.
Apparently I do because he doesn't get what's going on here. Right.
We have a duty here to use our best advice. Please,
I agree.
Don't interfere with us.
No, I'm certainly going to interfere with you because we're the applicant.
All right, John.
Because we're the applicant.
John.
Do you understand what you're doing here this evening? Do you understand what the item is?
We understand what you are doing, and we understand
what do you think you're doing here tonight?
Thank you, but that's not the point. Just a minute, John. We understand. I've heard your argument. You've already made it, and you're a fine speaker and a strong advocate, and I well respect your arguments and your position. But please, John, have a seat. If somebody here has
I'll have a
question,
seat. I'll have a
let them
seat
ask you.
with the following statement for you to ask. Please ask your staff if an approval tonight gives us any right to build anything on that site. Just ask the question.
All right, thank you, John. All right, now let's go back to this.
Yeah,
Now,
I find it very troubling. I
All
find
right,
it very
Vince.
troubling that people come in outside. Whether or not people are living in North Miami, people are coming in here and just feel they can ream anything through the Planning Commission, the City Council, and everywhere else. That they take advantage of our supposed ignorance or lack of interest, that will get anything through at any time. It's happened before. It seems to be happening again, and maybe it's about time we stopped something like that. You know, we're trying to make the plan better. We know that this is going to happen. Come hell or high water. Everybody knows that. It's a done deal. Somebody else, not us, signed off on this, and this is going to happen. We're trying to make improvements to it, not only for, you know, even for the developer's sake, for the residents here, for the people who live in the city of North Miami, and for, believe it or not, the developers, which will have a better end product. And if you really think that you're going to champion that driving past loading docks is your idea of a great development that you're going to be proud of, I think it's a sorry commentary. I think it really is. I don't understand a lot of things about this plan. I don't understand the logic that, you know, you had a chance to, that we could say, hey, this is all undesirable backside retail. And what do? We put the park up against it. Now we're going to put other desirable, supposedly desirable park-like elements up against the backside of that. It seems a little bit nuts. And at the expense of it, we're going to put the retail, the backside of the main strip mall, up against the residential. Why would you do that? Why? And make it a longer traffic pattern to achieve that? I don't understand. I don't understand why you wouldn't have. I mean, you had it pretty much, and we discussed that last town meeting. You had retail here, and you could have continued retail. Could have continued, and you did continue retail over here, back to back, undesirable against undesirable. You could have continued it here, vacate the lake, and you'd have continuous retail in this region, a buffer zone to possibly do the little park-like elements that you're calling for anyway, and then keep your residential out in this direction.
William, so what you're saying is, take the commercial as it is right now, flip it to the other side so you have back-to-back commercial, where loading is back to loading.
Yes.
Got it. I understand.
This is a strategy.
I'm listening to you for a second. Then I would have the linear park sandwiched, if you will, between the face of the commercial to the east,
yes,
and the residential farther east.
Yes.
I got it.
Yes.
Then you would continue the linear park, and you would continue it onto the oval plaza. That's what you're saying?
Yes.
Got it. And then you would do what with the lake?
This is one of these 5-minute sketches, like your front sketch. I mean, this, you know, this is not for design. This
I'm
is
listening. That's what I'm here for.
Just for a strategy.
Yes.
And if it can be seen.
It's okay. Just talk to me and explain to me.
It's basically putting the retail as you have it. You had retail here.
Yes.
On what is the, allow me to do this.
Yes.
What allows north upright.
Yes.
It allows you to put the retail where you had it.
Yes.
And the parking in front of it.
Yes.
And then you have continuation of retail, which you called for in your most recent plan.
Yes.
And north of that, where there's another backside of existing retail.
Correct.
To continue that.
Yes.
So you have this sort of a corridor. You sort of reinforce the north-south traffic pattern. You allow for easier access.
Right.
The roadway that is close to the roadway that is a little bit closer to. I'm calling like what you wanted. You had like an oval, oblong plan. I'm trying to incorporate what you were doing here, and the westernmost road would be maybe more accessible to the retail.
I don't have a problem with that concept.
And the easternmost would be more accessible.
William, we discussed that also together, and I think we're both going the same direction. And yes, eventually it will get there. I just need to get there, and it will take some time. But again, you have here in front of you, and we broke apart and we connected, if you will, the community, and we put the residential there. I understand what you're saying, and I can study that. And I don't have a problem with what you're saying now that I understand clearly that what you're saying is take the commercial and flip it on the backside and make it back to the commercial. I understand you now clearly.
So that we're not only are we dealing with the new commercial backside that's going to happen.
Yes.
We're going to have that backside commercial is going to happen. Why don't we put it against some other existing distraction to mitigate the effect of both? and therefore we get the more desirable front side of the retail onto a potential park or buffer zone that then allows you
Yes, sir.
to then put a sort of a spine of high-rise residential.
Logical comment, and if you would like to, please make it a condition. I would be more than happy to implement such statements.
And in the process, it sort of simplifies the circulation pattern. Without,
Yes.
people that are over in this area can quickly get out there. They can get out easy. Everybody can get out these points without having going past every other tower. They can get out by passing one or two towers, maybe at the most, and they can then exit the property. So that's a consideration. Other people have considered this access to through the park area and getting to FIU. It would allow you to still progress through that and to get to the park. Right now, you haven't included that. A lot of people have expressed an interest in having that, and part of that could be that we don't have the recreation area down here, which a lot of people have objected to. I'll do the north-south orientation. But maybe it goes in here, which is a little bit hard to use parcel of the property.
That I would have a problem with putting it by the residential. The idea about flipping the shopping around, I think, is a viable condition. I think that the connectivity of the parks, whether it's the community park, whether it's the linear park at that point, I would like to stretch the string of pearls of parks across the property,
right,
from north and south to east
right,
and west. But I take your comment well, as I have taken your comments in the last hearing as well.
I agree.
And I would be amenable, if you give me a condition on that, William, I'd be amenable to implement that.
Well, this really needs, it's a fairly great leap to go from what was presented, the diagram that was presented, and to something that's a little differently organized. It does require some redesign. I'm troubled that here it is. There was a strategy to have the residential components continue within the Oaks here, and it seems to be your strategy of having the residential go along here, along the tree line, which I thought that was kind of acceptable, and they have a good view and such, and they're away, that high rises are away from Biscayne Boulevard, so they don't sort of impose on Biscayne Boulevard. But all of a sudden, I don't know, because we're locked into everything else, we throw a high rise down here. Is that it? Just seems to be like you gotta,
William,
and you know this.
I think, William, I think what I said, just so we're clear and crystal clear, I took your comments whereby to flip the commercial around and to put, including the residential, be over there, and including that parking come out of there.
Right.
The parking come out and be more, if you will, to the east. So I think that we certainly can agree on that, and I'm willing to even go further for you, if I would, is to make it a condition, because I think I can meet that request. Thank you so much.
It needs to be shown. It's hard to graphically represent something in written format. It would be so difficult.
All right, well, Bill,
to do.
I understand, but we have other commissioners
Right.
that haven't spoken yet tonight.
Okay, so again, it's
the sun rises in the east around
Right,
6:30 this
right.
morning, and we'd
Okay.
like to move this
Anyway,
along one way or the other.
Okay, and I also, just there are other things that we should be concerned of that go into detail that I know your firm will be able to resolve it in the long run. It's not resolved now. If we call for an oval pattern, well, it's great if you define the oval from the outside, like in Bath in England, and you start to define a curve by that from the outside, or if you put something on the inside. But if you barely define the outside and you throw a lot of buildings, rectangular buildings, at an ad hoc pattern on the inside, I think you just basically have some asphalt that goes in an oval. You haven't defined the space yet. And I think a lot of these things your firm will be able to resolve. I don't think they've done that now. Relationships of this hard edge corner sticking into this rather than the curve sort of opening up, as we've expressed an interest in opening up this academic corridor. Instead, the curve is put in so that it imposes on the corner and creates that high rise there and pinches it rather than accommodates it. There are a lot of details that I know you'll be able to resolve, if you're given the time and the leeway to do that.
And I will be, like we said, William, before, and I also gave you my card and my number. I'll be more than happy to meet with you, separately. And furthermore, I will have to come up in front of you shortly again, whether it's for the Spine Road or for any kind of building that I want to get approved on this site. And I do believe that your comments are, for me personally, they're well taken. And I think that I can implement them in there. And I'd like to sit down also with you and review some of them. I gave you my card and my cell number and my email. And with pleasure, I'd be happy to do that. But I'm going to come here in front of you again soon, hopefully with the rest of the project. And this is just a placeholder, if you will.
We all truly believe that this could be something, and I know it's something you want to be proud of, and you and your firm and your firm's reputation.
This is a very important project for me, yes.
Yeah, and this is something that we would also like to be proud of. We don't want to pass by this site as planning commissioners or as citizens and say, wow, we had a chance to open our mouths or to try to get this on the right track, and we didn't say anything.
God forbid.
We want this to be as good as it possibly can.
God forbid.
And if it is that, it'll benefit the developers immensely.
And
it'll be a more desirable product.
Absolutely, and it's a personal project because we do live by and eat, and family are nearby. And your comments are well taken, and I believe, like I've told you before in your other comments, that we can implement. I've shown you good faith, and I believe that by the time I come back to you in the next 30 days or 60 days with the Spine Road and the rest of the commercial and hotel development, I would have it more defined for you with your comments in there.
And if you take that strategy, you have the opportunity to relocate that lake to where you really would like it. If you have a clean slate to really
William, again, the relocation of the lake, I cannot address, and if I can address everything else that you've said. I cannot address the lake. I will check with the environmental folks what it is that we can and cannot do on that. But I cannot sit here in the public hearing today and tell you as such. The other things, I can tell you as an architect that I believe that I can implement.
All right, thank you, Mr. Prevotel.
I guess I have no time to yield.
I would like to. No, you don't. You have burned every ounce of time.
Thank you very much.
No, William, it's my pleasure, really, sincerely. Your comments were well taken before, and I take your comments well now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prevotel, and thank you, Mr. Karp, for your patience. Now we move to the right side of this commission. Now let's see here. Mr. Ernst.
Yes. Thank you.
I'll let you go first, and we'll take it right down the line, and we'll finish off with Kenny.
I'm
sorry, Maureen speaking?
Yes, Maureen was the first person.
You forgot. I said we shouldn't vote. We should continue this so we can flesh out these matters.
Well,
Mr. Ernst, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Look, every project that's going to be, this has gone on for 13 years that I've been on the Planning Commission. We have a conceptual plan before us. There are a lot of things in here I don't like personally. I may not like the design. I don't like the towers. I don't like the amount of density. Those are items that I can look at later on down the road and argue, because they're going to come back to us, and we'll have our chance to address those things. What we are addressing tonight is the exception of the map, the Master Development Plan map. That's all we are here to approve. And the only way this project's ever going to get done is if we get going on this thing and set the wheels in motion. And if we approve this preliminary plan, we can start addressing all these concerns that everybody else has. We can start injecting our disapproval or likes or dislikes for the way the parks are built or the buildings look or the shopping center, and set aside personal issues or feelings that we have toward the developer or any of the legalities involved in it. Those in time will be addressed. But personally, the only way I can see that this is going to get done is if we go ahead and we move forward with accepting what this developmental concept map is presented to us tonight. That's all I have to say, Mr. Chairman. So you know how I'm going to vote on this.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ernst. Mr. Castor.
Well, as Same as the last time, I think this project is very important to each and every one of us up here. More importantly, the developer and Mr. Karp. I want to commend you for a better job than the last.
Thank you so much.
Last plan that we viewed. Still think that there is some work that needs to be done.
I agree.
Mr. Privatar obviously is doing a wonderful job up here, as we all are, because we're here for a purpose, and we have to look at the interests of everyone involved.
Yes.
And I think that I agree that the fact that the project have to continue. It has been going on for a long time. I'd like to ask the staff that if we should move this project tonight, if we should vote to continue. What I mean, I'm kind of confused in terms of, I understand that we're only voting to for the plan, but what would happen? I mean, can the developer come back and not meet any type of I don't know, concern that we may have if we should move tonight? Can you please enlighten me on what we're approving tonight?
Commissioner Castor, it's exactly as depicted in the title. It's just a conceptual map. It's a vision for the site, but what's required is that at each stage of development, the developer is required to come back to this commission and to the mayor and council for review of a conditional use permit for each phase of development.
Okay.
And at that point is when they're required to provide precise plan with detailed drawings, architectural massing, and more site plan related detail and definitive that you would see. But at this stage, it's just a conceptual overview for the site in order to issue a conditional use permit, a master conditional use permit.
Clarification,
but for
please.
each increment, then you have more detail and more design elements that are submitted.
Clarification, please. That means that if it went through and something is then presented at a later date, another planning meeting, you could say, oh, that road really doesn't belong there. We're going to relocate roads, or we're going to relocate massing of the projects.
You
or
can
say, hey, the retail really shouldn't be there. It should be some. All those decisions could be made.
You
later
can
on?
have revisions along the way for a conceptual master plan.
But we don't
so
really
it's
have
not
the power
fixed
to do
in
that,
stone.
do we?
It's not fixed. It comes before you. As you notice in
No.
the condition, it's clear.
Right.
The condition says
But
you're
re-
required for each phase. Just give me a minute
Yeah.
to respond to Mr. Castor's question. You're required as a part of the condition use permit process to submit impact reports. You're required to submit architectural detail. You're required to submit site plans. At this stage, you don't have a site plan. All you have is a conceptual map. That's not a site plan.
Well,
It's
that's-
just a
that's-
conceptual map.
that's
But what
very-
you get are more details for the setbacks and information in terms of the facade of the building architecture
I have to ask a
for each
question then.
phase. And you do see that again for each submittal. It's not like you see it today and you never see it again until the buildings pop up.
May I ask a question? Suppose the school board comes back and says, we need 12 acres for an elementary school, we need 14 acres for a senior high school, then doesn't that change the whole concept?
And they will be back before you again with the revisions to incorporate
Well, these
that.
are
So
matters
this
that
is
can
to
be
get them to
resolved
move forward.
now.
Yeah. It's the ounce of
Before.
No, they can't be.
the ounce of prevention or a pound of cure.
That's not what's before you, though.
No, if they come back, they could.
How are you going to resolve a school issue tonight, right now,
No.
when you have no property?
Let me continue with my.
What we're
let me
saying
continue.
is, there's no letter addressing the
No, but
school
that,
issue.
but the state statute, the state, this
No,
is,
they're not, when it's acreage.
Maureen, allow me to finish, please.
Mr. Castor,
actually
this is still
his
his time.
It was hijacked.
Mr. Castor.
Although I have concern with the project, I do want to see the project begin at least. You know, I want to see the project moving. I mean, in the moving stage, it has been an ongoing issues. I just want to make certain that if it should move for any reason, that nothing can be built
Correct.
at all.
Correct.
For the record.
Correct. And I'll add to that in terms, and I think that's what the city attorney was trying to get to. We're subject to school concurrency. And as a part of school concurrency, you can't build one iota out there unless you've satisfied this condition that's written. So I know someone said the conditions are just arbitrary. It's not. It's required by state statutes. It's required by interlocal agreements that the city of North Miami has signed with the Miami-Dade County School District. This is why we put these conditions in there, because it implements those statutory requirements.
Okay. And I'd like to ask Mr. Karp a
Yes,
question,
sir.
if I may.
Sure.
Regarding the traffic study issues.
Yes.
Have you looked into that?
Yes,
at all?
yes, sir, we have, and the traffic study is will have to be developed in detail with your departments here and your staff. And just to show you good faith, you know, I have to come up in front of commission, I think, next week. I'm going to try my darnest, as I met with William before, and I have your comments here tonight, sir. I'm going to try to come up with a developed site plan that shows your comments that I have taken here. The site plan that is shown there as a concept, Mr. Castro, I took the comments that was given to me at the workshop. I'm going to take the comments I'm being given here tonight, and I'm going to come up with a site plan that's updated that has these comments in there. I have full intention of implementing your comments in. We have great landscape architects on the project, local and here, and we have great traffic engineers on it, and the school board will have requirements as is being mentioned, and I believe that we can accommodate them. We have accommodated them in the past. We have square footage already in the site for mommy and me, for child care. We have those elements in there, and if we need to put a K through 2 and whatever it is that we need to implement, we shall be able to do so and come back in front of you with that.
Okay. And I must say that I also understand the developer's frustration, but please understand that, you know, we have to try to do the right thing for all.
Of course, without a doubt.
And if I, for some reason, should approve this, would you guys be willing to meet with the resident of the community again? To make certain that, you know, everyone's on the same page.
Absolutely. And I believe that I can provide the connectivity that Mr. Hallinger has mentioned, both pedestrian and so forth, and I think that hopefully they can come to an agreement and I'll be able to make him quite happy.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your comments.
All right. Does that conclude your comments at the moment, Mr.
Yes.
Castor?
Correct. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Each.
Sir, let me compliment you. This is a much, much better plan than what we've seen the last time. However, I feel it still has a long, long way to go, and I'm not comfortable, not only with the plan, but with other elements of the whole project. And I'm not a lawyer, but it just seems to me that promises are made, things are said, and they're not kept. And I think why we're all very cautious up here is we want to make sure that we get the best possible project we can for the citizens. And it's nothing personal against you. You've done a marvelous job in the short
Thank you
time
so
that
much.
you've had this. And I'm not comfortable with going ahead with this right now. I look at the people at the Oaks and I hear the promises that were made to them, and I'm not a litigator, and I don't want to get in the middle of this right now, but we have an obligation to those people also.
Yes.
They bought property out there in good faith. The purpose of government, according to Adams, was to keep its people happy. And we're representatives of the people up here. And my first obligation is to make sure that we do the right thing in the interest of the citizens of this city. Not for some developer to make the most amount of money he can and the poor guys at the other end get a substandard project. I came to the city in 1970. I don't mean to pontificate. This was going to be our golden dream. We floated a $12 million bond issue, and we ended up on the Superfund list. And then when I left here and I went up to Chicago, I came back and I heard the project was sold and Swerdlow was developing this, and I came to the council meetings. I seen all kinds of promises thrown out here. And you know what? He came to the dance with us, but he left us at the dance and he walked away, and he made, God bless him, he made good money. I wish I had his agility. I really do. Now he's back again. So I want to make sure, nothing against Mike, I want to make sure that we do this project right. And I have some serious concerns about this, and a couple of questions I'd like to throw out here. First of all,
please,
if I may ask staff, we have a height maximum, I believe, of 25 stories on this? Correct. Now, can you please give me a definition on that? I was looking through this. Does that mean that we can build on top of a parking garage that may be 4 stories high? Because the higher, the better. That's my estimation. That's my first question.
I do agree with you on that.
If you have a 5-story parking garage like I see downtown, can you build 25 residential, 25 floors on top of that?
The way the project is designed right now, sir, the way the project is designed right now, It's 25 floors above grade.
Grade.
Yes, sir.
What's called grade, though? Is that
The surrounding dirt, soil that is there, right there, yes.
and that would include any parking garage?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What concerns me, when we got the second addendum, this plan here, I brought up the last time, and I'm going to go to the focus, the real estate advisor, North Miami Biscayne Corridor residential rental market. And something that I brought up, and what we were promised was these were going to be high-end condos. High-end condos, and people were going to move in here with disposable income. And then I read this, and it says rental apartment complexes will range from small to standalone buildings, so forth and so on. I'm not satisfied with this. I feel tonight if I approve this, the way it stands, that we're going to get rental apartments out there. And that was not the intent. And I want to make that very clear. That was not the intent. Sir, this city is teetering.
Right.
Okay? We're teetering. And we need to have a project out there that we're going to encourage people to come in with disposable income.
Yes.
Okay? We have to have an economic balance to keep our businesses open.
Yes.
It's okay to have workforce housing, but we have to have a high end. And I was told the last time at this meeting, but we don't have a view of the bay. But I see a beautiful project going on up there at 170th Street, $1 million condos.
Right.
Why can't we have that here? I've seen that we were reduced from a four-star hotel to a three-star hotel. Why? What are we, second class over here? You know, I ask these questions, and it's nothing personal against you.
No, I think, Mr. Each, you're right on the money.
We have a beautiful view. You pointed that out into your in your presentation.
Yes, I did.
We look at the beautiful green belt out there, and you go up 6 or 7 stories, and you have a magnificent view of the bay. And then I see an apartment being placed over on Biscayne Boulevard, or closer to Biscayne Boulevard, I'm sorry, on the west side of the project, the west-south,
On the southwest,
quadrant.
yes, sir.
And I'm confused with that, and I'm afraid. I'm afraid to go forward with this. Okay? I absolutely am, and I'm cautious.
Let me
finish.
Yeah,
And
please do.
Okay. I'm very cautious with this, and I see no addendum to the North Miami Biscayne Corridor residential rental market right here. I don't see any change to this. So I feel that we're going to be locked into this, and I'm not going to go along with something like this. Either we're going to get high-end condos out there, or we're going to disguise it all and say, hey, we're going to give you a nice presentation over here, nothing against you.
Thank you.
But we're going to have a rental market out there. And, you know, and here, they got the saying in here, we're going to build high-end rentals, and then maybe 30 years from the date, you know, 20 years from the time, we're going to turn them around and being condos. Who's kidding who? I don't want to buy an apartment building that's, you know, that's been as a rental. I mean, this just doesn't make any sense to me. And then the auto mall, that has me a little concerned. The people at the Oaks, they didn't buy their beautiful their apartments in their estimation over there to look at an auto mall. And I'm concerned about that. And when we bring these topics up, it's not to be insulting, to be condescending. We live here. At the end of the day, staff goes home. But we live here. This is my city. I've lived here for 40 years. I patrol the streets of this city. Okay? I know the heartbeat of this city. And I want to make sure that we do the right thing out there. And with this project, I have some other questions here, but I'm just on edge with it.
Mr. Each, let me try to give you some comfort in some of the project. Number one, the building that is, the site, you're right, once you clear the mangroves, which is why I have taken the steps up into the site, the 10 feet and the 20 feet, because it allows me to clear the mangroves. And allows me to capture what you said is true, is the views. And if you look at the plan, the buildings are designed to capture the views to the east, northeast, southeast, and south. If you look at the aerials that I've attached, the views to the south are magnificent. They're looking straight down the bay and onto downtown Miami and South Beach. What you think is a big distance, it's not. It's a very short distance. The distance between 150th Street to look to downtown Miami is a clear shot, and you can clearly see it. It's a very good view. I've done many a project in Sunny Isles Beach and Miami Beach, and the view to downtown Miami is great. So the intent of this project is, and you can see in the renderings and the way it's being designed by LaFrac and Swerdlow, is a luxury direction, is a luxury project. I'm an architect. I cannot tell you if I buy a unit, you cannot rent it. I think that there's rules and regulations, Fair Housing Act, that anybody can rent any unit here, right? But I think by the definition of the cost of the construction alone, this will be the more expensive destination in the city of North Miami. The hotel is not a 3-star. It is a 4-star hotel. It's designed and it's laid out with the park and amenity area to be as such, and it will be as such, as a 4-star. The commercial volumes that are there that we're showing, the spaces and the sizes and the heights are designed to be of a quality and a caliber of a first-rate standard. I cannot guarantee you in this public hearing that they're all going to be Gucci and Pucci, but I just finished the H&M store on Lincoln Road, which sells, it's about 50,000, 40,000 square feet on Lincoln Road. I don't know if you know where that is, the H&M store that just opened up in the Lincoln Road conversion. And that sells for just about anybody and a very fair price, but they do pay very high rent on Lincoln Road. The car dealership is a very good comment. And that's why I pointed you to the Lexus dealership on the west side of the railroad track nearby, which I think is
I know what Lexus
is a pretty designed building, and I think that they've done a good job at putting their product out there and their brand. And that's why I also turned your attention to the 1111 garage building, where in today's market the land is so valuable that we cannot afford to put the cars, and I'm not proposing in this project to put the cars on asphalt horizontally. I am proposing to put it vertically, which costs more money. It means that there is a different quality of life. I mentioned Rodeo Drive, where they sell luxury cars. I mentioned Bremen. I can also take you, for example, to a dialogue where we can talk about the collection in Coral Gables, which sits on the beautiful corner in Coral Gables, and it's a very high-end destination, and that's really what we are looking for here. So I share your concern, Mr. Each. I think that as an architect, and based on the plans that I've submitted to you in a concept, and as William and I have discussed, I will have to come back in front of you, but we have taken the liberty to show you some 3Ds here, make them part of the record. And I think, as you noted, the buildings are not cheap. We are looking to step it up into a substantial direction. And LaFrac organization with the Swerdlow are looking to make a nice and unique project. And I'll take you a step further. The independent living facility that we are proposing is in caliber with the Palace, again in Coral Gables on Miracle Mile on the corner that was just recently built and finished, which is a 4-star facility. So we are looking, and my mandate is, and I'm putting it on the record, is to create a statement and to create not only an urban planning statement from our plazas, not only from a commercial and a public accessibility, but also to make it as a green space, as a LEED certified location, as a pedestrian friendly location, as a place where people would want to live. It's a place where I would want to live, a place where I would like, to have elderly live and be maintained and cared for. So it, by no stretch of the imagination, you can see in the plans and the renderings that we have submitted on the record thus far, we're looking to take it certainly to the next level. So I think your comments, Mr. Each, are very well taken, and they're very valid. And so whatever it is that I can put on the record to assist you, it would be my pleasure to do so.
Well, let me say this. I'm looking at this concept plan here, the last go-around, and it said that the hotel was going to be reduced from a 4-star to a 3-star. I want to see it in writing. And the reason I say that is
Yes,
that
sir.
Mr. Swerdlow came up here and he said,
Yes, sir.
I'm going to give you this and I'm going to give you that, and then
Yes,
I don't
sir.
know what I don't want to be quoted as, but I understand the rumor control that, well, it wasn't in writing, I don't have to do that. And I want to make sure that we're going to have that 4-star hotel.
I
that
agree.
We're going to have high-end condos out there.
Yes.
Let me just ask one other question.
No, Mr. Each, but let's just set the record. I would like a condition, please, that it is a 4-star hotel and not a 3-star hotel.
It's right here. I haven't seen any change to it, and I have it in the...
Yes, sir, and it's in the letter of March 22nd, 2013, signed...
We didn't get a copy of that from
Please,
staff.
can you show it to him, just so he sees it?
Well,
But, yeah, it's our intent, sir, to do exactly that.
You could also,
Give it to
as
me.
further guarantee, Mr. Reach, you could also make that a condition of approval, but it is...
I understand that, but I'm going to cross my T's and dot my I's. I'm sorry. I'm shell-shocked. I'm not...
It is an important project for me, Mr. Each, as it is for you. And whatever it is that I can make you feel comfortable, I think this letter is part of the record.
All right, high-density residential, medium-density residential, assisted living, 4-star hotel, auto dealership, community center, parks, and passive active. I mean, what are we talking about on residential? Here again, are we talking about condos or are we talking about rentals? I want some clarity on that. I'm sorry, I have nothing against you, sir.
No, it's fine,
One other
Mr.
question
Chair.
I have here. I see on this depiction, here,
Yes.
I was just kind of wondering, I see where you have Lowe's, Ashley City Furniture, Kohl's, not you personally, but Ross, Brandmart. Are these already signed up? They're ready to go in there, or are they just somebody?
Those are only proposed tenants. Our tenant mix.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Each. Our
The
tenant
developer
mix. Yes, those are tenants that are interested in coming, but the tenants that are proposed to come in now more so than ever before, because they've seen this new plan and this new vision is of a higher mix. And again, I have to choose my words very carefully. A higher just means potentially a higher rental per square foot, because I took you back to Lincoln Road, which is one of the pedestrian circulation in the United States and pays the highest rent per square foot, one of the highest rents per square foot. And H&M sells what we would call discount or quality or regular. You can go in there for $20 and buy shorts, T-shirt, and sandals, and you're on Lincoln Road. And they're also in the Forum Shops in Las Vegas. So they do pay high rents.
No, I was just wondering.
Yes, sir. But I do want to make you...
Already or just
No, sir. Not yet, Mr. Each. But certainly the hotel, I think your comments are very well taken. And I think you can see the expenditure and the quality that the LaFrac and Swirl organization are putting in here is and they're going to have to do that in order to get the return on their investment here. That's the only way it's going to have to work out, sir.
I'm a capitalist. I believe in making a dollar. But when I give my word out there to somebody, I carry it out.
Right.
Okay? And that's my first concern. As sitting up here as a commissioner representing the people, I want to make sure that when we're told something, it's going to be delivered.
Correct.
And again, your depiction is a heck of a lot better. I mean, it's excellent compared to what was presented to us the last time.
And it's only the beginning, Mr. Each. I intend to move it forward.
I like to see these changes that we talked about incorporated before we go forward with this. That's my idea. I'm sorry, Sue. Thank you very much.
I'd like to make a motion that we continue this matter so that the issues that have been discussed can be incorporated in the next iteration.
I'd like to second that motion.
All right, we have a motion made and seconded to continue this. Is that permissible?
I urge, I will not compel this board to do something, but I urge this board to make a decision this evening. Because, yes, sir, because this item has already been, at the last meeting, this board indicated that it be continued subject to a meeting, a workshop that was held by the developer. They're here tonight. I think you've had 2 bites at the apple. And this project needs to go forward.
And little, if anything, has changed since that meeting, since the meeting at the developers. Little, if anything, as a matter of fact, it's just about exactly the same. Doesn't reflect any of the comments tonight. and didn't include the drawing that was presented here tonight.
I will
either.
quote the section that is applicable to this board this evening. The Planning Commission, after reviewing the reports and the application, as well as hearing testimony at the public hearing, shall make a recommendation for approval with conditions, or denial. That's pretty much it. It's pretty clear cut.
Well, the way I read it, we have the ability to file, make a motion to continue and vote on that. That's the way I read it.
I'm sorry, ma'am, but I will have to disagree with that, but I can't, it's not within my authority to compel this board to do something it doesn't desire to, but the code is quite clear. And as it was, you continued it from last month to this month, and I just don't feel that the code
and that was perfectly acceptable, so we want to do it one more time. It's fine.
Well, you know, it was acceptable then to both the applicant and this commission. It was by a mutual decision by the parties at that time, and I have to say it how it is. They did a workshop that you had requested, and here they are again.
But if the workshop did not reflect the input of the people at the workshop, if it does not reflect the concerns of the board, it's a moot exercise, and that's exactly what it was.
Well, you can vote against it.
I think
vote to deny.
We see the possibility of improvement, and we'd like to.
We're not going to debate this indefinitely. The chair will accept the motion for continuance. It's been made and seconded. Do we have any discussion on the motion for continuance?
Well,
no discussion.
Mr. Chair, if I may, once again to reiterate, the board does not have the discretion to continue the item. The board, based on the code, must make a decision. It has to be denial, approval with conditions, or approval.
But
the board has no discretion.
The language is quite clear. It's shall. It's not permissive. It is mandatory. It is incumbent upon this board to make a recommendation for approval with conditions, or denial. It's simply put.
How were we allowed to continue in the first place? Last time.
Both parties had agreed to continue the item.
May I see the section you're reading?
You can.
I'd like to read it. Mr. Provera, can I just chime in for a second? Am I allowed to? I would be more than happy to take all of your comments and have them ready for the next commission, because I will have them.
All right.
At the last meeting, just for clarification, at the last meeting, I questioned the applicant, and I said, sir, you are entitled to a vote this evening, and that's on the record.
You can walk out.
All right, it's up or down?
Wait a minute.
I think we as a panel have accepted way too much, have rubber stamped way too much.
Still have the quorum.
So many inferior projects, and this is not the time to do that.
We're going to be appearing in front of the City Commission on April 9th. We will accept this action tonight as a denial, and we will go forward on April 9th. See you then.
Wait a minute. Mr. Dela Gloria, no vote has been taken yet.
I don't care what you think.
John.
There's no.
John. Mr. De La Gloria. John, please. Please.
John, please.
It's okay.
You need to take a vote.
Please.
The chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of the site plan with the conditions that were offered earlier. Now add up to 16 conditions. Is that correct, staff?
Well, you've got basically 3.
17 is what I have
conditions.
noted. I had 15 originally, I've added 2.
Stop breaking the sunshine law. Will you please stop breaking the sunshine law? No matter what, I know you want to take the high road. Don't break the sunshine law.
Excuse me.
Or I'll turn you into the
Excuse me, John. You're out of order, John.
John, let him do it if he wants to. John, let him do it.
Gentlemen.
You own this place.
Stop breaking
And that's
the
the problem.
sunshine law.
Because
Stop
you think you
breaking
can pull
the
every
sunshine
string
law.
around here.
Stop
That's the
breaking
way
the
it's been.
sunshine.
John.
I'm sorry, I haven't been bought by you.
Go sit down.
I have
or
not
leave.
been bought by
You
you.
can't break the sunshine.
But you, everybody
Okay.
else, right? You
No
can pull
matter
strings
how
for
much
everybody.
John.
No matter how
You
crappy
can't
something
break
can
the
be.
sunshine law. Okay?
I'm not breaking any
Mr.
sunshine law.
Prevotel.
You just did it.
All right.
Speaking to a fellow councilman.
Let the record reflect that 2 commissioners have walked off the dais. Commissioner Prevotel and Commissioner Harwitz. We have 4 commissioners remaining. We still have a quorum. The Planning Commission is still in session. Mr. Ernst has made a motion to approve, recognizing the following conditions: that Oaks access be addressed and resolved, that the stormwater drainage issue be resolved, and Mr. Prevotel has proffered and Mr. Karp has agreed to accept that we flip the shopping center around. Now, those are the 3 conditions that have been accepted. We can vote this up, we can vote it down.
One question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
How about the questions that I brought up before about the hotel and
Yes.
and
The
all that other
four-star-
stuff?
the four-star hotel,
well,
yes, sir.
I haven't seen any of that.
If we can, well, here's what's got to happen now. Let me explain this to you, Kenny. We have a motion. We can vote the motion down or vote the motion up. Understand that. You can add additional conditions. If you want to add conditions for the 4-star hotel and the high end, and you can specify all of that, it can be in, and Charlie has the option to accept any amendments to his motion.
Which I will gladly accept.
And then you have to consider that, and we vote that either way.
Let's call the issue.
I'd like the second subject to modification.
All right.
If I can.
Well, you didn't have a petition. All right, you didn't have
Call
that.
the issue.
Charlie has the motion on the floor. We either vote it up or we vote it down. I don't hear a second. I don't hear a second. I don't hear a second. All right. Motion dies for lack of a second.
Motion to adjourn.
Well, we have to vote this up or down.
We just died.
You I mean, unless you want to entertain another motion, it's dead.
Then it's over.
Motion died.
All right. that's
Motion
it.
to approve died with
Motion
conditions.
to approve failed. The motion to approve failed for lack of a second.
Hold on.
Now what?
There's a question for Mr.
All right. All right. Put your question on the record.
What I was saying, Kevin, is I want to see this get moving, subject to modification. With,
People like to see something happen.
I want to see something happen. I don't mind seconding the motion to continue, subject to modification, making certain that nothing is being built.
Well, there can't be a continuance. It has to be up or
I'm voting for
down.
an up and down.
Okay, I'll go for it.
I voted for approval of the conditional concept map. That's what is at issue tonight.
Okay.
And again, my motion is for accepting of the conditional concept map
With staff conditions.
All
with
right.
conditions.
With the conditions. You either second it or you don't.
Okay, I'll second it.
All right.
Thank you.
Second, then we have an option to vote it up or down.
No.
No.
Voice vote?
Voice vote.
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Castor?
Yes.
No. All right. Dies. Thank you.
Just for clarification. Okay.
So we're treating this as a denial.
Effectively, because the motion failed to carry.
Fine. It's denied. We just needed an answer to go to the council. That's fine. I told you 2 hours ago just to vote it down.
We understand that, John, but everyone has to be allowed their discussions. All right. Our next meeting will be May when?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, if we're all still solvent and sane at that point.
Now that the dust has settled. We're requesting that there be a special meeting date for May.
This was
Staff has a conflict on the date for May, so we're asking the board to agree amongst you for a special meeting date for May.
Send out sample dates to the board members and an email address where they can respond.
Okay.
Do it by
Arceli, your
email.
board secretary will be in touch with
Okay.
you.
All right, we've got a calendar conflict for May, so
Okay, it wouldn't be that.
May is undetermined because the council chamber is booked for the May meeting, so we'll have to have a special meeting in May. All right, meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
I've never seen this before. This is insane.
This was my first